During the Second World War in the Netherlands, there were a number of Dutch collaborators with the Nazis. Not all Dutch offered active or passive resistance to the occupation by the Germans, and some men and women chose or were forced to collaborate with the occupiers. Many men joined the German army, and others worked towards helping the Nazis achieve their goals. Some Dutch civilians were responsible for fanatically tracking down the Jews who were in hiding within the Netherlands, and they were involved in capturing hidden Jews and delivering them to the Germans for a price. One of the most high-profile cases of this saw Anne Frank and the Frank family ultimately betrayed whilst they were hiding out in the secret annex. Someone did tell the authorities of their whereabouts, which resulted in the transport of the hiders to the concentration camps and ultimately their deaths. Today we look at one woman who was executed for her role in collaborating with the Nazis and for hunting Jews and passing them over to the Germans. So join us today as we look at the compelling execution of Ans van Dijk, and remember to support our channel. Please make sure to subscribe. Anna Ans van Dijk was born on the 24th of December 1906. She was the daughter of Jewish parents, Aaron van Dijk and Katje Bin. It's assumed that she had a relatively normal upbringing, and in 1927, at the age of 21, she married Bram Quirido. However, within 8 years they'd separated, and following this she had a relationship with another woman, and then opened up a shop in Amsterdam. Her shop was for headwear or hats, however dark times for the Netherlands were on the horizon. On the 10th of May 1940, the Germans invaded the neutral Netherlands, and within 5 days of the army rolling into the country, the armed forces had surrendered. Rotterdam had been heavily bombed during the attack, and the royal family quickly left the country, fleeing to London. The invaders placed the country under immediate German occupation, and the swift invasion shocked many, especially because of the neutrality of the Netherlands. The armed forces defending the Netherlands quickly folded, as they had old weapons and equipment and poor numbers of these, and they were caught out by shock. Their weapons systems in place were from the First World War and had not been updated. They had a very small amount of armoured cars and tankettes and could not compete with the rapid assaults of the Wehrmacht. Rotterdam was blitzed by Luftwaffe bombers, and around 25,000 homes were destroyed, with hundreds killed. The locals pressurised the garrison commander of the city to surrender. The Dutch High Command was shocked by the large-scale bombing, and they ordered the army to surrender. Life inside of the occupied Netherlands got tougher as the war went on, with large-scale food shortages. Hitler thought highly of the Dutch people, and he considered them fellow Aryans. There were attempts to appease the population and to sway them to the National Socialist ideology, and the leaders of the Netherlands eased on the repression of the civil population. However, for Jews they were persecuted heavily inside of the country. The Nazis began early to deport Jews to different concentration camps, and the Dutch people saw this and began to strike. Mass deportations continued, with Jews being sent to transit camps, before being sent to concentration camps further away. Jews were forced to wear the Star of David, and the survival rates of the Dutch Jews was around 27%. Now, as mentioned, there was a significant degree of collaboration with the Nazis. Between 20,000 and 25,000 Dutch men, for example, joined the Heer, or the Waffen-SS, with whole brigades of Dutch soldiers fighting for the Nazi cause. Some even saw action on the Eastern Front, and even fought in the Netherlands themselves. But there were very shameful parts of collaboration. Women who collaborated or slept with German soldiers were often forced into ordeals of public humiliation, having their heads shaved and being painted with swastikas. Ans van Dijk was one collaborator who sold her soul to the Nazis. Her hat business and shop was closed down by the Nazis in 1941, as they sought to seize all Jewish property in Amsterdam, and Jews were forbidden across the country to own businesses and to work inside of retail shops. There were other restrictions on them. Because of the closure, Van Dijk was left out of work, but being Jewish herself, she must have feared for her life at some point. It's alleged that to make money she began to sell goods where she could, and she also allegedly helped Jews to find hiding places. However, in January 1943, she was forced to hide from the Nazis to escape deportation. On Easter Sunday 1943, she was arrested by the SD, and Detective Peter Schaap of the Office of Jewish Affairs of the Amsterdam Police after she was caught. During her interrogation and interview, to avoid deportation and to secure her freedom, Van Dijk decided to switch over and to collaborate. She agreed to help the SD to find Jews hiding in different places, and she agreed to work for them as a Jew hunter for her own safety. She began to infiltrate different circles, and she would offer help to Jews inside of Amsterdam, lying to them that she could help them to secure safe hiding places, and also provide them with false papers. She did this a number of times, and she managed to trap at least 145 people, and it's estimated that this number was even higher. In a horrific show of how sick she really was, she even managed to lure her own brother and other family members, and then they were turned over to the Nazis. Of those at least 145, it's estimated that at least 85 of the people snared by Ans van Dijk were murdered inside of concentration camps. However, other estimates have put her betrayal even higher, saying that she was responsible for turning over around 700 Jews to the Nazis. There have even been suggestions that Ans van Dijk may have been the one who found out about Anne Frank's secret annex, and that it was her who provided the information for the Gestapo to raid the annex and for the Frank family and the other hiders to be seized. She could have been the one behind the death of Anne Frank. She continued to turn over Jews to the Germans, but after the Second World War she was arrested. She had moved from Amsterdam to The Hague and was arrested at her friend's house on the 20th of June 1945. She was interrogated by Dutch police and was charged with 23 counts of treason against the people of her nation. Ans was brought to trial on the 24th of February 1947 and was brought in front of a judge and a courtroom. During her trial, she claimed that she had acted and agreed to only help the Germans to save her own life, stating that if she did not agree to help the SD and the Nazis, then she would have been sent to a concentration camp and would have been killed. She said this was the only reason why she did it, denying she was a Nazi, but amazingly she confessed to all 23 counts of treason. It was obvious what Ans van Dijk's sentence would be, as she was key to the murder of those men, women and children she handed over. Without her, they would not have been killed. Ans van Dijk for her actions was sentenced to death. She tried to appeal her conviction, pleading that without her turning over Jews, then she would have been killed herself. However, this went to the Special Court of Appeals. She even requested to the Queen Wilhelmina for a royal pardon, but this was again rejected, confirming her death sentence. On the 14th of January 1948, Ans van Dijk was brought from her prison to Fort Bema, and the night before her execution, she was baptised and joined the Roman Catholic Church. She also wrote a number of goodbye letters, including one to a nun who visited her in jail. However, early in the morning she was brought out to what looks like a moat of the fort or a ditch surrounding a wall. Next to the wall were sandbags to ensure that bullets did not ricochet, and as she was brought into the ditch, she was led out to a post. She was then tied to this stake, and her hands and legs were also secured to ensure that Van Dijk could not escape. Over her head, a black cap was placed to ensure that she could not see her final moments. Opposite her was a firing squad who were then given a signal to get ready. The firing squad then, once the signal was given to fire, fired straight into Ans van Dijk. Her execution was one which can be viewed as slightly controversial, as she was Jewish herself, and it's clear that but for her collaboration, chances are that she would have been killed inside a concentration camp. However, what she didn't have to do was to take her role as a snitch for the SD to the level that she did. As for her actions, dozens were sent to their deaths inside some of the worst and most evil places the world has ever seen. Once again, thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.